Hi readers, Chris here. Today I'm going to be going over all of the books that I read in October, and then at the end of the video I'm going to be talking about all the books that I am going to try and read for November. October was a pretty good month. I got 6 books finished. A couple of these books I had started, before October. One in particular took me quite a long time to read. But overall, I feel like I read a lot of books in October that were good, but a lot of them were all missing something, or there was something that I didn't like about them. So when it came to time to actually rank them from my least favorite to favorite, it was actually really, really difficult because I feel like a big chunk in the middle are all, I felt the same about a lot of them, so it was really hard to put them in order, but I'm going to jump in and start with my least favorite book of October, and that is going to be Fallen Skies by Felipe Gregory. This book is basically about post-World War I London. We have a young girl. Her name is Lily. She is a struggling chorus girl. She comes from a poor family. She meets and falls in love with this older soldier. He's just come back from the war. He's from a wealthy family, but he has severe PTSD, and she decides that she wants to put up with his abuse if it will further her career and her social standing. I love Felipe Gregory. I have read so many of Felipe Gregory's books, almost all the books she's ever written. This one, I did not like. When I started it, I had really high hopes. I thought, it was going to be more of a cat and mouse between the two main characters to see, women, and a lot of her books, women use their sexuality to manipulate men into doing what they want. That was not the case here at all. Neither of the characters, female or male, were likable. They were both horrible people. They both made horrible, stupid decisions, and I didn't really like either of them. I posted a review about this over on Instagram. I was debating whether or not I wanted to do a 1-minute review on BookTube, but I feel like because this is not a popular book or a popular author, it may not be worth my time to do that. So let me know in the comments below if you're interested in a bigger review on this one. This was my least favorite. I'm going to move on to the next one, which is going to be Artemis, Vowel, and the Atlantis Complex. So this is number 5 out of 6. And again, it wasn't a horrible book. I just feel like this is the second to last book in the Artemis Vowel series. Second to last. The book before this one, I had a lot of issues with. A lot, if you remember me talking about that last month. This one was definitely better than the previous book, which was good. But on the other hand, I feel like there's not a lot that happened in this book. It did not have it didn't have a super complex plot. The previous book had time travel and, wizards and warlocks and all this crazy stuff going on. And this one was a much simpler and much smaller story, which was probably needed, but I don't know, it was just okay for me. The one thing I will say is that there is a character, Juliet, who hasn't been in a bunch of books, but she finally comes back in this one, which I really, really, really liked. I'll probably be posting about this over on my Instagram this week and talking a little bit more about this one for sure. Number 4 on my list is going to be Gregor the Overlander by Suzanne Collins. This book was recommended to me by C-Jar, so C-Jar, thank you again for recommending this book to me. It was super, super cute. Again, it is number 4 on my list, but that doesn't mean I didn't like it. I did like it. I did a review on this one already. Basically, it's about a young boy. His name is Gregor, and he accidentally, slips into a vent in his laundry room in his, New York apartment, and he ends up in the Underland, which is basically this whole world that is, beneath New York City. We've got bats and rats and spiders and cockroaches and all these super cool creatures that you would normally think of as ew, icky. But in the Underland, these creatures talk, and Gregor gets to know them and gets to judge them by what they do, not how they look, which I think is really, really cool. And also, I did read a little bit about Suzanne Collins, where she talks about how she kind of uses war games as a setting for this book. So the people that live in the Underland are like at war with the rats, and Gregor and his friends have to go on a mission to try and defeat the rats. It was a really cute book. My only problem with this one really was that it did take me a little bit to get into the book, because this is a book for younger readers. And again, I do read books for younger readers, so it's not that. But this is like a middle grade, probably, fantasy, and I feel like this is more elementary school. So because of that, it did take me a little bit to like try and adjust my brain to like, okay, I have to readjust that this book really is for children and not for adults. So it did take me a little bit to get into the story. But once I did, I really ended up enjoying it. So definitely recommend this one if you're looking for a book for kids to read. And again, Suzanne Collins is a super popular author, so I don't know why more people haven't read this one and aren't talking about it, but who knows. Next up, number 3 and 2 were super hard to choose between, but number 3, I'm going with The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. Some of you I've had conversations with about this book, because just like Mistborn before it, a lot of this book was super boring. So why is it so high on my list, you might ask? Well, at the end of the book, there are so many twists and turns and like things that are revealed. It actually made reading the rest of the book worth it. Just barely, but worth it. That's the reason that this book is slightly lower than number 2, is because I wish the rest of the book was as exciting as the ending is. The ending of this book is so exciting. Just like the first book, Mistborn is a little slow, but then it has this super cool twist ending that makes the rest of the book like make so much more sense. The same thing happens in Wheel of Ascension, but it doesn't have just one twist, it has multiple twists. So in this book, we have a young girl named Vin. She is a Mistborn, so she uses... The way that magic works in this world is people ingest different types of metal, and it gives them different types of power. Most people can only use like one type of metal, but Vin can use all of them because she is a Mistborn. Now, they just defeated this, big bad guy in book 1. Now the city that she's in doesn't have a leader because they deposed the leader. So their city is going to be attacked by not 1, not 2, but like 3 neighboring, let's say call them armies. Neighboring armies want to invade and take over because this is like the biggest city in the empire. So that's kind of the setup. But underneath that, there's like, they think that defeating the previous, bad guy may have actually done something even worse. And you don't really find out about that until the end. So this book is a lot of politicking. It's a lot of like, how do we actually manage to run a city? And some people might find that super interesting. I did not. Sometimes I do find that stuff interesting, but in this case, I don't know. I just felt like there was something lacking. There was just some action lacking from a majority of this book, so that's why it's a little bit lower. But again, I do think it is worth a read, especially once you get to the end, and I really want to know what happens next. I am definitely going to be reading the last one because the ending of this book made it so I need to know what happens. I need to know. I just need to know. So that brings me to a book number 2 for October, which is Ruin and Rising by Leigh Bardugo. It's so shiny. I hate it when the covers are so shiny because they reflect the light so bad. Anyway, Ruin and Rising is the 3rd book in the Shadow and Bone trilogy. I've already done a full-length review on this one. I've talked about it a lot. But just in case you didn't see that, basically we have a young girl. Her name is Alina, and she has been fighting against this guy called the Darklings since the very first book. she's been going around trying to collect these amplifiers that are supposed to help amplify her power, because she has this power of like the sun, the power of light that no one's ever had before except for her. So it's light fighting the dark. In the first book, there was a stag that she got the antlers from. In the second book, there was a creature they called the sea whip. And in the third book here, we have a firebird that she's going after. I think this might be my favorite book in this series. I did have a lot of problems with this series. Alina starts out very much a blank slate character. She doesn't have a lot going on. She's not very well developed. But I think by the end, she does get a lot more development, which I like. Mal, who's kind of like her main love interest, I really did not like through most of the series. I still didn't like him here, but I at least appreciated him a little bit better. So at the end of the day, Alina and Mal, this is the end of their story, I hope. I have no need to ever see them again, but I love the world that Lee Bardugo has created here, the Grishaverse, and I definitely want to read more stories from that world. So I know there's like the Six of Crows duology. I really want to read that. And then King of Scars. I really, really want to read that. Might read that one first because I actually have that one sitting on my shelf somewhere. I just have to dig it out. But again, the reason I put this one at number 2 compared to Well of Ascension is because I thought this book was much more well-rounded than Wheel of Ascension was. So that is why it was number 2 for October. And that brings me to my favorite book of October, which should be no surprise to anyone that knows me, and that's going to be It by Stephen King. I started this book in August. I just finished it in October. I've already posted a full-length review and a 1-minute review because I had to see if I could do that. So you can go and check those out. But it was my favorite book of October that I finished in October because of all the things I've said before. It's just a masterful piece of writing. It sucks you in from the very first page. You really get to know all the characters. It has amazing world building, deep and complex characters, and a plot that is just absolutely insane. If for some reason you're not familiar with it, it is basically a, we'll call it a demon, a spirit that is haunting this town. The most common form that the spirit takes is of Pennywise the Clown, if you're familiar with, It the Clown. But it has tons of other forms. His final form is just absolutely crazy. Not something that I expected either. Wink, wink. But this is a great book. It's definitely not for everyone, I know, because it's like horror and all that stuff. But if you can get past some of that, I think this book is worth reading. It's worth everyone's time to check it out just for the writing alone. It's such, if you want to be a writer, check this one out. I'm stumbling over my words because I don't know what else to say that I haven't said already, and I don't want to keep repeating myself, so I may edit this out, but end of the day, it's a fantastic book. I loved it, and I'm going to tell everyone I can that they should read it. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about my November TBR, which is a bit aggressive considering we have a holiday that's coming up at the end of the month here in the U.S., Thanksgiving, and then also I have my first work trip this month, which means I'm going to be gone for a couple of days, not next week, but the week after. In about 2 weeks, I'm going to Chicago for the first time. So I'm not going to have a ton of time to read, but I'm gonna give it a go, starting with The Mysterious Benedict Society. This book was recommended to me by Jen Park. So Jen, thank you so much for recommending this to me. I'm almost halfway through so far. I actually am really liking this. It's super cute. The kids are cute. The school is cute. I think it's a really cool way to look at different types of intelligence. We have a bunch of kids here that took a test. They all passed the test based on like the way that they answered questions. We've got one boy who memorizes everything he sees, so that's how he answered his test. One boy is really good at solving puzzles. One girl is like creative with tools. It seems really, really cute and really, really cool, so I'm excited to see where this one goes. Thank you again for recommending this to me. Next up, I'm continuing my Stephen King journey. Since I finished it, next one on the list was The Eyes of the Dragon. And I am so happy that this book is way shorter than it was. Thank God. But I do like that there are some familiar characters in here, like Roland from the Dark Tower series, and Randall Flagg, who's been in The Dark Tower, The Stand, so many other books. But this one, we have a king who has two sons. The king gets murdered. They make it look like a setup so that they can put the one son over the other. It seems really cool so far, and I'm excited to see where that one goes. Next up, I usually read a historical fiction, but because I really disliked Fallen Skies so much, I feel like I needed a break from that. I wanted to do something a little bit different, so I have not read a Christopher Moore book in quite a while, and this is the only one I think I have of his that I haven't read, so I thought it'd be a good time to give it a try. It's called Fool. It's basically a King Lear retelling that is supposed to be super funny. And just for example, I think it's right in the front where it says, "Warning, this is a bawdy tale. Herein you will find gratuitous shagging, murder, spanking, maiming, treason, and heretofore unexplored heights of vulgarity and profanity, as well as non-traditional grammar, split infinitives, and the odd wink. If that sort of thing bothers you, then gentle reader, pass by, for we endeavor only to entertain, not to offend. That said, if that's the sort of thing you think you might enjoy, then you have happened upon the perfect story." This sounds like the perfect read right now. Whoops. And the perfect thing to get my mind off of how bad Fallen Skies was. So I can't wait to let you guys know how this one goes because it sounds hilarious. Next up, I have my YA fantasy for November, and that's going to be Cress by Marissa Meyer. This is the third book in the Lunar Chronicles series. As you know, I started this back over the summer with Cinder. Cress, I'm hoping to finish Cress in November, and then there's one more book called Winter, which hopefully I can read in December so that I can get this series finished by the end of the year. So Cress, I think she's supposed to be kind of like a Rapunzel character. She is trapped up in this satellite all alone. She has all this hair, and she's hoping that Cinder and Scarlet from the previous books can rescue her and that she can help them defeat the evil Lunar Queen. So it seems really cool. I'm really liking this series. It is a super fun YA fantasy / sci-fi series, and I can't wait to see where this one goes. Next up, we have my adult fantasy for the month, and here is where I kind of got tripped up a little bit, because I decided that last year at around this time is when I read The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, so I thought it would be a great time of year to finally read the second one, The Wise Man's Fear. Here's the problem, though. I didn't realize when I picked this book up and started it that it's over 1,000 pages long, which means I don't know that I'm going to be able to actually finish this in November. And the whole reason I started another book is because I wanted to read one fantasy in November and then finish out the year with The Burning God from the Poppy War, because I've been waiting for this to come out in paperback. It just came out this weekend. I picked it up. I had to start reading it because I've been dying to get this book. So technically I have these two books. I'm going to try to finish this one as quickly as possible. This one I probably won't finish till December, but you never know. We'll see how it goes. And last but not least, that brings me to the final Artemis Vowel book, Artemis Vowel, The Last Guardian. Well, at least this is the final book in this series. I know there's other series that Artemis Vowel appears in, but this is the last one that I will be reading for now. I've been reading these books all year long. My goal is to finish this by the end of the year. It's a short book, so I could finish it in November, but I might dedicate more of my reading time to some of the other books, so I may not finish this one until December. It's going to be at the bottom of like my pile, and what I normally do is like I'll start at the top and I'll read a chapter, or a chunk until I run out of time. So depending on the day, like if it's a work day, I have less time. If it's a weekend, I might have more time. So I'm going to put this at the bottom. We'll see what happens. I may not finish it in November because I'm really trying to finish some of the other ones, but we'll see what happens. So that's it for October and November. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're not already, please subscribe to my channel, and I will be talking to you all later. Happy reading!